Welcome back to Court TV Live. Let's turn our attention now to a new live trial that we are watching together out of the state of Montana. Opening statements are underway in this trial that we're calling the returned mail murder trial.
Yeah, it's interesting. Defendant Jordan Palmer is claiming self-defense after he shot and killed his neighbor in April of 2024. He says he was putting a piece of mail that he had found on the ground back in the mailbox of his neighbor, Stephen Campbell.
Now, that's when he says that Campbell started accusing him of stealing and began attacking him. But police say that they saw something very different on the video of this incident. Before we get you into court, here's a look at the case against Jordan Palmer.
It was a fight over a piece of mail that ended the life of 45-year-old Stephen Campbell near Bozeman, Montana in April of 2024. First responders found him lying on the pavement with multiple bullet wounds, a Glock 19 on the ground above his head. Standing over Campbell's bloodied body was 44-year-old Jordan Palmer, a neighbor. Palmer told officers at the scene, quote, "This guy just attacked me. I shot him." According to Palmer, he had found a piece of mail on the ground and went to the address to return it to the mailbox. That's when he said Campbell showed up, accusing Palmer of breaking into cars, and when Palmer denied it, he says Campbell started swinging. Palmer's charged with deliberate homicide, a capital offense, and could spend the rest of his life behind bars.
Let's go into court now for the start of the state's opening statements in this case.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for your patience the last few days. I'm sure that there's some anticipation in moving forward at this point, so we do appreciate all of your time. On April 19th, 2024, around 11:28 p.m., 911 received a call that they described as an open, silent line. No one was there. The caller hung up, and as is their protocol, dispatch called that number back to see if anybody needed help. The caller answered when dispatch called them back, and it was Jordan Palmer. Once dispatch called Mr. Palmer back to ask him if he needed any help, he indicated he did, and said that he had shot a man who, in his claim, attacked him. I anticipate you'll have the opportunity to hear that 911 call, and you'll hear that the man that was shot accused Mr. Palmer of trying to get in someone's vehicle. I anticipate you'll hear on that call that Mr. Palmer claims that man verbally threatened him and was swinging at him. And in response, Mr. Palmer fired a gun at him 7 times. He pulled the trigger 7 times in response to his claim that this man threw a cigarette down, verbally threatened him, and swung at him. That man was Stephen Campbell, who was 44 years old at the time. And this occurred outside of his home. It was technically in front of 808 Mantle, which is this orange dot right here. Stephen Mantle lived at 807 Mantle Drive. While Mr. Palmer remained on the phone with dispatch, officers and medical were responding to the scene because he indicated that Mr. Campbell, who he didn't list by name, but that a man was lying on the ground, still breathing. When Officer Jacob Eichen, who was the first to arrive on scene, responded to 808 Mantle, he observed Mr. Palmer standing in the road, and who he later learned to be Stephen Campbell, lying in the roadway, unconscious, but still breathing. Only moments after Officer Eichen arrived, Officer Damon Turnquist also responded to the scene. Officer Eichen ordered Palmer to lie on the ground and observed a pistol laying close to Mr. Campbell's head. While Mr. Palmer was on the ground, Officer Turnquist and Eichen started to perform life-saving measures on Mr. Campbell. Officer Eichen observed immediately 2 visible bullet wounds, and during this time, Montana Highway Patrol also arrived along with Officer John Hughes and began securing the scene and addressing Mr. Palmer, who was lying on the ground not very far from where Mr. Campbell's body was lying. You'll hear testimony from Officer Eichen and Officer Damon Turnquist describing the actions that they took and the observations that they made on scene. You'll also hear testimony from Officer John Hughes, who arrived and is the one who actually took Mr. Palmer into custody. He'll describe finding an extra loaded magazine in Mr. Palmer's pocket. And he then transported Mr. Palmer from the scene to the Belgrade Police Department station. Mr. Campbell was addressed by medical on scene. He was still alive. He was transported to Bozeman Deaconess Hospital, where medical staff continued to try to save his life, and unfortunately they were unsuccessful. During this time, Detective Juan Cervantes was contacted and responded to the station to try to make contact with Jordan Palmer. Detective Cervantes will describe to you how he then proceeded to the scene where the shooting occurred and walk you through his investigation, the evidence that he collected, the photographs that he took of Mr. Campbell's clothing, all items found on his person. In these photographs, you'll see that Mr. Campbell's clothes had to be cut off of him on scene in order to assess his injuries and try to perform life-saving measures. You'll also see, I anticipate, photographs that Mr. Campbell did have a pocket knife in his pocket. It was closed and it was clipped on the inside of his pocket. You'll hear testimony from Detective Nicole Nelson, who also assisted.
Hey, prosecutor, laying it out for the jury. What is to come in this case? Fascinating case, all over a piece of mail. We'll get you back to Montana in just a bit, but coming up, we'll update you on what's going on in Colorado. The former dentist accused of poisoning his wife. That jury continues to deliberate, along with the jury out in Washington, the jury in Texas. It's Deliberation Day.
Triple Deliberation Day. Don't go anywhere. More Court TV after this.
Welcome back to Court TV Live. I'm Ted Rollins along with Julia Janae. We're going to turn our attention now to jury deliberations that are underway in the case against James Craig.
Yeah, this is a former Aurora dentist accused of killing his wife, Angela, by allegedly poisoning her protein shakes. Let's turn our attention to someone who has the latest on this case. We have Court TV legal correspondent Kelly Craft, who's in studio with us. Kelly, the court didn't allow cameras for a lot of this trial, but now we have seen those closing arguments. Tell us the latest with jury deliberations.
Yeah, hey there, Julia and Ted, and it's really too bad because this has been quite the case to cover and to watch and to see what's been taking place. A lot of drama in this one, and the jury began deliberating early Tuesday afternoon. Before they began their deliberations, in the jury instructions, when those were given to the jury, the judge made it clear to the jurors that James Craig has pleaded not guilty to the charges that he is facing. Now, the defense theory is that he ordered arsenic and cyanide at the request of his wife of 23 years, her name is Angela, so that she could end her own life. The prosecution said in closing, though, that Angela Craig played no part in her death.
He spent 10 days killing Angela Craig. And he could have stopped on day 1, or day 2, or day 10. He kept going. Kept going right until the end. Angela Craig was innocent. James Craig is guilty.
Now, we did hear from family members throughout this case who said that Angela was in no way suicidal.
He was charged with first-degree murders, but jurors do have lessers on the table.
They do, and the judge also, Ted, made this clear to the jurors. So if they don't find him guilty of that top count, first-degree murder, the judge informed the jury that they can consider second-degree murder, criminally negligent homicide, as well as manslaughter. Now, that manslaughter charge is in relation to another theory by defense that he did order arsenic and cyanide at the request of Angela so she could end her life. So talking about here assisted suicide. During the closing arguments, Craig, he was seen crying, especially when defense counsel was reading from his wife's journal. In that journal, she wrote about being depressed and how her husband did not love her because she was not enough for him. Here's a bit of the defense close.
You do not know if this was voluntarily or involuntarily ingested. You know, crossed on this, I talked about this. You know, he went home on March 15th. And if you believe this theory, they're blinders, and you gotta believe this timeline, and this is the writing you're gonna believe, that he went home and got this lethal dose. Oh, this is gonna do it. She's gonna die now. But I'm gonna leave all of this stuff sitting up there? It just doesn't make sense. Why would you clean it up? If you're poisoning her, clean it up.
So you heard defense counsel there making several arguments to the jury that Mr. Craig had no indication, no motive, no anything to really do anything here for that top charge of first-degree murder. They are fine with these lesser includeds because, for instance, on manslaughter, it would be the assisted suicide, and part of their theory is that he ordered it because she wanted to end the life. So he ordered the poison because she wanted to end her life. So it's been a really fascinating trial to watch, Ted and Julia, and of course, if there's any movement from the jury, we will bring it to you.
Wow. Right. What a defense theory there,
yes.
Kelly Craft. Thank you for that report. We'll bring you any updates here on Court TV.
For now, let's head back to Montana. We're watching the opening statements in this new trial that we just started to watch together. It's the returned mail murder trial. The defendant here, Jordan Palmer. Let's go back in, pick up the openings from the state where we left off.
Her role was more focused on obtaining warrants for both of the parties' residents, Stephen Campbell, who lived at 807 Mantle Drive, and warrants also for the home of Jordan Palmer, who at the time lived at 703 Mantle Drive, the blue spot there. So approximately a block apart. In part, those warrants were intended to look for evidence associated with the shooting, but also looking for some kind of possible connection between the two men to maybe help understand why this incident happened. And I anticipate you will hear testimony that there was no connection found. There's no reason to believe that these men never met or had any knowledge of each other. No prior history with each other. The only common thread was the roughly 1 block distance between their homes. You'll hear testimony from Detective Sergeant Ben Martin, who first responded to the hospital while they were still trying to save Mr. Campbell's life. Sergeant Martin also went to the scene and assisted Detective Cervantes and Detective Nelson in gathering and collecting evidence, interviewing neighbors, trying to find out, again, had anybody witnessed this, and trying to piece together the story of how Mr. Campbell was fatally shot and why. One of the neighbors that detectives interviewed was Lori Mashik. Lori Mashik also lived at 807 Mansfield. There's multiple units in 807 Mansfield, and Lori Mashik lived in a bottom unit that shared a wall with Stephen Campbell. Miss Mashik was home at the time of the shooting. She was in her back bedroom with headphones on, and when the shots were fired, in part because of where she was located and her headphones, she actually thought it was someone knocking at her door, and that caused her to come out and see what was happening. When she looked outside, she saw one man standing and one man lying on the ground, called out to them and asked if anybody needed help. Mr. Palmer responded to that request saying that he was trying, and then she called 911 as well. James Schultz is also a neighbor. He lives at 806 Mantle. So that would be just one over from the 808 Orange.
All right, quick break. We'll get you into that Montana courtroom for the rest of the state's opening statements in our new trial. Stay with us.
Friday night, superstar guards face off as the Indiana Fever take on the Dallas Wings. Then the Los Angeles Sparks look for a win against the Seattle Storm. Coverage begins Friday night at 7. Find ION wherever you watch. ION, it's on.
This week.
Join us each morning to get trial ready for the day's proceedings. Plus, deeper dives into true crime stories with our daily spotlight.
Opening statements with Julie Grant. Mornings at 8, 7 Central on Court TV.
Welcome back to Court TV Live. Thank you for being with us. We're on a verdict watch in several courtrooms, including in Washington State, where the Ali jury has been out for 8 hours, and we haven't heard a peep from them, but we'll, of course, take you there if anything happens. But let's go now to our live trial that we're watching in Montana. Day one of the returned mail murder trial for defendant Jordan Palmer.
He's charged with deliberate homicide in the shooting death of Stephen Campbell. Investigators say it was all over a misunderstanding over mail. Palmer is claiming self-defense here, so we assume that at some point he's going to take the stand.
Yeah, let's get you back into the courtroom now, though. We are listening to the very beginning, everything that's laying this out for the jury, the prosecution's opening statement.
And although Mr. Schultz doesn't have any firsthand knowledge of what happened, his house does have what is kind of the equivalent of a ring cam. It's a Vivint cam, but it's the same concept. It's on the exterior of the home, and a lot of people have them now for safety or just to kind of see what's going on around your residence. So he did provide law enforcement with that video, and I anticipate you'll have the opportunity to look at it yourself to see what it shows. It's not the highest quality. If any of you are familiar with different versions of ring cams or home security, it varies. But what it does show are two individuals coming together in the street. What appears to be, they stop about approximately several feet apart. Again, it's hard to tell the exact distance. You'll see what appears to be a cigarette being thrown. And moments later, there's another sudden flash, and then you hear the sound of 7 gunshots. Rapid fire back to back. The court instructed you as to your role being the finder of fact. So when evidence is presented to you, it's up to you to determine what you believe reasonably happened based on your observations and what you hear in the testimony that's provided and the visual evidence that's presented to you. You'll also hear testimony from Lynette Lonson. She works at the Montana State Crime Lab, and she tested the Glock 19 9mm pistol that was found on scene, and she'll tell you it was working properly as intended and guide you through how that pistol operates and what one would need to do to pull the trigger 7 times. You'll also hear testimony from Brian Monroe, who works at the Gallatin County Coroner's Office. Mr. Monroe responded to the hospital as well while they were attempting to save Mr. Campbell's life. His investigation has a slightly different purpose than other investigators in the sheriff's office. He responds to all death calls, whether they're homicide or self-inflicted or natural causes. And his investigation is not focused at a suspect, but more so to determine and confirm the cause and manner of death. And you'll have the opportunity for him to walk you through his investigation as well. You'll also hear from Walter Kemp, who is associated with the crime lab. He's a state medical examiner, and he is the one who performed the autopsy on Mr. Campbell. He will walk you through and be able to provide photographs, which I'll just warn you are graphic in nature, but help demonstrate the parts of Mr. Campbell's body that were injured and where the bullets entered and exited his body. He ultimately determined that the cause of death was multiple gunshot wounds and the manner of death was homicide. I think it's likely that you will hear evidence about Mr. Campbell, the individual who was shot, having consumed alcohol that day. I don't believe the evidence will show that he deserved to be shot 7 times because he was intoxicated. Ultimately, what you will see is there was 1 gun found on scene. There's no evidence that Mr. Campbell had a gun on him or anything that appeared or could have been perceived as a gun. He had a folded pocket knife clipped on the interior of his pants pocket. And there is no evidence that will show that Mr. Campbell brandished a weapon toward Mr. Palmer prior to being shot. And the evidence does not support Mr. Palmer's claim that he was being attacked prior to the shooting. Ultimately, I believe the evidence will prove, and that is up to you to determine, but that it will show you that Mr. Palmer purposely or knowingly caused the death of Mr. Campbell by shooting with a gun, and that's up to you to find out after you review all of the facts. And in looking at the moments, the brief interaction leading up to the shooting, that when Mr. Palmer shot Mr. Campbell, he committed the offense of deliberate homicide. And I would ask at the close of all of the evidence that you find him guilty of deliberate homicide. Thank you.